The driver waits outside a pawn shop, calmly watching the seconds tick by. This job was supposed to be simple. Pick up his crew, drive away, and everyone goes home alive. One of the robbers is already inside the car, while they wait for the last man to come out. Finally, the last robber bursts through the door, and for a brief moment, everything seems to be going according to plan. But that moment doesn't last. Before he can reach the car, the pawn shop owner rushes outside with a pistol and opens fire. The man is hit several times and collapses just a few steps away from safety. With bullets flying in every direction, the driver has no choice but to slam his foot on the accelerator and leave him behind. As if things couldn't get any worse, another car suddenly appears and starts chasing them. Now the driver is on the run with a partner he barely knows, a bag stuffed with cash, and a group of ruthless criminals willing to kill anyone who stands in their way. The question is, how did a quiet mechanic end up in the middle of $1 million heist? Before we dive into the story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and rate this recap from 1 to 10 in the comments below. Now, let's go back to how it all began. Meet the driver, a quiet mechanic who rarely speaks and prefers to let his actions do the talking. During the day, he repairs cars at a local garage and works as a stunt driver on Hollywood movie sets. But when night falls, he has another job, working as a professional getaway driver for criminals. Before every job, he gives his clients one simple rule: they get exactly 5 minutes. During those 5 minutes, he'll do everything possible to get them out safely, but if they're even a minute late, they're on their own. One night, the driver receives another getaway job. He parks outside a building while 2 robbers head inside. As expected, they return within the 5-minute limit, and the driver calmly pulls away without attracting attention. Instead of speeding through the streets, he obeys every traffic law, blending in with the other cars while listening to the police scanner. When officers begin closing in, he outsmarts them by slipping into a parking garage just as thousands of basketball fans pour out of a nearby arena. Within seconds, the robbers disappear into the crowd, leaving the police with nothing but another unsolved robbery. Without saying a word, the driver quietly walks away, proving why he's considered one of the best getaway drivers in the city. The next morning, it's back to business as usual. He heads straight to Shannon's auto repair shop, spending the rest of his day fixing cars like nothing ever happened the night before. One evening, while returning home, he shares an elevator with his neighbor Irene. The two exchange a few awkward glances before realizing they live on the same floor. They barely speak, but there is an instant connection between them, as if they were naturally drawn to each other. Just as the driver's ordinary life begins taking shape, Shannon has dreams that reach far beyond running a small repair shop. Having watched the driver's incredible talent behind the wheel for years, Shannon believes he's destined for much more than fixing cars and performing movie stunts. He wants to build a professional stock car racing team with the driver behind the wheel. But turning that dream into reality requires one thing: money. To make it happen, Shannon arranges a meeting with an old associate named Bernie Rose, a wealthy businessman with deep pockets and even deeper ties to the criminal underworld. At first, Bernie isn't convinced. Before he can respond, his longtime business partner, Nino, walks in and jokingly tells Shannon to get out because he wants to speak with Bernie alone. After a brief laugh, the meeting continues. Shannon passionately explains that all he needs is someone willing to invest in a race car, promising that once Bernie sees the driver in action, he'll understand why the investment is worth every dollar. Bernie finally agrees, but on one condition. Before investing a single cent, he wants to see the driver behind the wheel himself. Not long afterward, Shannon introduces them to the driver at the racetrack. The moment Bernie watches him drive, his doubts disappear. The driver's control, precision, and fearlessness leave him genuinely impressed. Convinced he's looking at a once-in-a-generation talent, Bernie agrees to finance the racing team. To Shannon, it feels like the beginning of a brighter future, but neither he nor the driver realizes they've just shaken hands with the very men who will soon turn their lives upside down. A few days later, the driver runs into Irene again at a nearby supermarket. This time, she's with her young son, Benicio. Hoping to avoid an awkward conversation, he quietly finishes his shopping and heads outside. But before he can leave, he notices Irene struggling to start her car. Without saying much, he walks over to help. He offers to drive Irene and Benicio home. After carrying their groceries upstairs, Irene thanks him for the help. As they chat, she learns that he's a mechanic, while the driver discovers that she's raising Benicio alone because her husband, Standard, is currently serving time in prison. From that moment on, the ice between them begins to melt. The following day, Irene brings her car to Shannon's garage, where the driver works. Shannon notices the way they look at each other and asks if they already know one another. Irene explains that they're neighbors. She asks if Shannon can call her a taxi. Instead, he smiles and tells her the driver can take them home since they're heading to the same apartment building anyway. He also tells Irene that the driver is one of the best mechanics he's ever known, and, despite his quiet nature, he's a genuinely good man. The driver agrees without hesitation. On the ride home, Irene apologizes for showing up at his workplace and putting him on the spot, but he simply brushes it off. Rather than driving straight home, the driver suggests taking a short detour. Irene agrees, and the three of them spend the afternoon together at the Los Angeles River. As Benicio happily plays nearby, the driver and Irene quietly enjoy each other's company, looking less like strangers and more like a small family. Over the next few days, they continue spending time together. Whether it's taking peaceful drives around the city or enjoying simple afternoons with Benicio, the driver slowly experiences something he has never really had before, a place where he feels like he belongs. Little by little, the lonely mechanic begins to imagine a life outside the criminal world. Unfortunately, that peaceful dream is about to come crashing down. Just when it seems like the driver has finally found something worth holding on to, reality comes knocking on Irene's door. One morning, her husband Standard is finally released from prison and returns home. Seeing Irene reunited with her husband, the driver quietly steps back, choosing to respect their family instead of getting in the way. However, Standard's freedom doesn't last long. Not long after returning home, he's ambushed by a group of thugs who brutally beat him in a parking lot. As the driver arrives, he catches the attackers leaving and rushes over to help Standard back to his apartment. That's when the truth finally comes out. While serving his prison sentence, Standard borrowed protection from dangerous criminals. Now that he's free, they expect him to repay every cent. If he fails, they won't just come after him, they'll also target Irene and little Benicio. To make sure he gets the message, the gang leaves a single bullet for Benicio as a warning. Realizing the family is living in constant fear, the driver decides he can't just stand by and watch. Standard explains that there's only one way to clear the debt. He's been forced into robbing a pawn shop, knowing Irene and Benicio will be killed if he refuses. The driver agrees to become their getaway driver. By now, he's grown to care deeply for Irene and Benicio, and he refuses to let anything happen to them. To settle the arrangement, Standard takes the driver to meet the men behind the operation. There, the driver makes one thing crystal clear. Once the robbery is over, Standard, Irene, and Benicio are to be left alone forever. The gang agrees without hesitation, making it seem like this is nothing more than a simple job. They then introduce the final member of the crew, a woman named Blanche, who will go inside the pawn shop with Standard, while the driver waits outside as their getaway driver. Believing the family will finally be free after one last robbery, the driver accepts the deal. Unfortunately, the gang never had any intention of keeping their promise. It's a setup from the very beginning. The day of the robbery finally arrives. Just like every other job, the driver reminds Standard of the plan before taking his position outside the pawn shop. Inside, Standard and a woman named Blanche head in to grab the money, while the driver patiently waits behind the wheel, keeping one eye on the clock. As the seconds tick away, a black Chrysler with heavily tinted windows quietly pulls up beside him. The driver studies the car, trying to figure out who's inside. But whoever they are, they simply sit there watching him without saying a word. Moments later, everything unfolds exactly as we saw at the beginning. Standard suddenly comes running out of the pawn shop, but before he can reach the car, the owner rushes outside with a pistol and opens fire. Standard is hit several times and collapses just a few feet away from safety. The driver has no choice but to floor the accelerator, leaving Standard behind as almost immediately, the black Chrysler begins chasing them. Despite the pressure, the driver keeps his cool. Using his incredible driving skills, he finally loses the mysterious car before taking Blanche to a nearby motel to figure out what just happened. Once inside, he notices Blanche acting strangely. Instead of looking relieved, she seems terrified. Realizing she's hiding something, the driver locks the motel room door and demands answers. When she refuses to talk, he forces the truth out of her. Terrified, Blanche finally admits the robbery was never what Standard believed it was. It was a double cross from the gang to take the money. She told him that it was Cook, the guy from Early in Charge, then he lets her go. Before the driver and Blanche can even make sense of what just happened, a bullet suddenly tears through the motel window, killing Blanche instantly. Seconds later, two armed hitmen burst into the room to finish the job, but they've made one fatal mistake. Their final target isn't an ordinary getaway driver. The driver fights back with ruthless precision, killing both assassins before escaping with the stolen money. Only then does everything click into place. This was never just a robbery to pay off Standard's debt. It was a carefully planned double cross by the same gang that forced him into the job. Standard was never meant to survive, and Blanche's murder was meant to silence her before she could talk. Now, with the money in his hands, the driver has become the last loose end they need to erase. Badly wounded, the driver returns to Shannon's garage, where a doctor quietly stitches up his injuries. As he tries to piece together everything that has happened, he asks Shannon if he knows a man named Cook, the same man Blanche mentioned just before she was killed, and the man the driver made a deal with before the robbery. Shannon believes Bernie might know where to find him. However, he's far more interested in the stolen money. He asks the driver where he hid it, and even offers to keep it safe for him. The driver immediately shuts the idea down. Shannon then jokes that plenty of men have messed around with married women, but the driver is the first person he's ever seen rob a place just to help the woman's husband. After that, Shannon heads off to see if Bernie knows anything about Cook. Meanwhile, the driver tracks Cook down to a strip club. He asks one of the dancers where Cook is, and she points him toward the dressing room. The moment he walks in, the driver grabs Cook and brutally beats him in front of everyone. Shockingly, none of the dancers even react, as if this kind of violence is completely normal there. With a hammer in one hand and a single bullet in the other, the driver gives Cook a terrifying choice: tell him who the money belongs to, or die. Unable to take any more, Cook finally breaks. He orders one of the dancers to call Nino, revealing that Nino, Bernie's business partner, is the man behind the robbery. He assumes the driver wants to sell the stolen money back to him, but the driver makes his intentions clear. He isn't asking for a ransom or trying to make a profit. He simply tells Nino to name a time and place, and he'll return every dollar. Confused, Nino asks what the driver expects in return. The driver's answer is simple: he just wants out. Realizing the driver has no partners and hasn't involved anyone else, Nino ends the call and immediately orders his men to find out exactly who they're dealing with. Meanwhile, Irene is left to deal with the aftermath of Standard's death. Detectives question her at home after news of the failed pawnshop robbery spreads across the city. Heartbroken and still trying to process everything, she tells them she knows nothing about her husband's involvement. With no evidence linking her to the crime, the officers eventually leave. Later that evening, there's a knock at her door. It's the driver. He asks if they can talk for a minute. Although she's on her way out, she reluctantly agrees, and the two walk together toward the elevator. As they wait, the driver finally tells her the truth. He explains that Standard owed dangerous men a lot of money from prison, and that those men threatened to kill both her and Benicio if the debt wasn't repaid. That's why he agreed to help with the robbery. He apologizes, admitting that everything went terribly wrong. Then he tells her he still has the money. He offers it to her, telling her she can take Benicio, leave the city, and start over somewhere safe. He even says he'll come with them and protect them, overcome with grief and anger. Irene suddenly slaps him across the face. To her, that money is nothing but the reason her husband is dead. Before either of them can say another word, the elevator doors slide open, revealing an unexpected face waiting inside. If you are enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to subscribe. It would go a long way in supporting us. Standing inside is the very man Nino had ordered to find out who the driver really was. Something about the man's presence instantly puts the driver on guard, but neither of them says a word. They quietly step into the elevator together. As the elevator descends, the driver pulls Irene closer and shares one final, passionate kiss with her. Knowing what is about to happen, the moment he lets her go, he suddenly attacks the man, believing he's one of Nino's goons sent after him. The man crashes to the floor as the driver repeatedly stomps on him while Irene watches in silent horror. He doesn't stop until the man is dead. When the elevator doors finally open, Irene, completely traumatized by what she's just witnessed, quickly steps out of the elevator. The driver remains inside as the two silently stare at each other one last time before the elevator doors slowly close between them. Knowing there's no turning back now, the driver meets up with Shannon and demands to know how Nino's men found his apartment. Shannon admits that after their earlier conversation, he called Bernie. He insists he only wanted Bernie to know that the driver wasn't interested in the stolen money and had only agreed to the robbery to protect Irene and her family. But one mistake changes everything. Shannon also told Bernie about Irene. Furious, the driver realizes that's exactly how Nino's men were able to track him down. Shannon tries to defend himself, insisting he believed everything would be over once the money was returned and never imagined they would become targets. The driver blames him for bringing the danger straight to their doorstep, but Shannon can only repeat that he never saw it coming, realizing Nino's men will soon come after both of them. The driver begs Shannon to leave immediately and never come back. Meanwhile, Bernie meets with Nino at his restaurant to discuss the mess they've created. Bernie is furious that Nino set up the robbery without telling him, warning that if the Mafia family they are both answerable to finds out they stole from someone connected to them, they're both dead. Nino explains himself. The $1 million belonged to a small-time mob guy from Philadelphia who was trying to set up a rival operation in Los Angeles, and once Nino found out the money was being stashed in a pawn shop, he arranged the robbery to steal it and shut the operation down before it could threaten their own. As they argue, both men glance over at Cook, still battered from his encounter with the driver. Sitting nearby in the restaurant, since Cook is now a witness who could expose everything, Bernie brutally murders him on the spot while Nino silently ignores his screams, too focused on protecting himself to intervene. Before leaving, Bernie makes it clear that Nino now has to finish what he started, since the driver and Shannon are the only two people left who can tie Nino to the robbery. Bernie will personally take care of Shannon, while Nino handles the driver himself. Knowing the confrontation is inevitable, the driver stops by the movie studio and takes one of the stunt masks he once wore on set as he silently prepares for what's coming, while Shannon rushes back to the garage, hoping to disappear before Nino's men can find him. But he's already too late because Bernie is waiting. Shannon insists he has no idea where the driver is, and even jokes that he's probably halfway to Mexico or maybe Belize. But Bernie isn't fooled. He explains that the driver robbed the wrong people, then made the fatal mistake of trying to fix everything, leaving everyone connected to the heist as a loose end. Bernie admits he truly believed their racing team was going to succeed, and had even imagined seeing his own name painted across one of their race cars someday, but that dream dies in an instant when he suddenly slashes Shannon's arm open with a straight razor. Shannon slowly bleeds to death, while Bernie quietly stays beside him and calmly tells him the pain won't last much longer. Moments later, the driver arrives, only to find Shannon's lifeless body slumped against one of the cars, and he stands over his fallen friend in silence, before finally accepting the truth. There's only one way this can end. Bernie and Nino have to die. Consumed by revenge, the driver puts on the stunt mask and tracks Nino to his restaurant. Instead of attacking him there, he patiently waits until Nino leaves with his driver. Once they're out on the road, the driver quietly follows behind before suddenly ramming their car from the rear. Forcing it off the road, confused, Nino's driver steps out to inspect the damage, but finds nothing in the darkness. Believing it was just an accident, he gets back into the car, but before they can drive away, headlights suddenly burst out from the shadows. The driver floors the accelerator and smashes straight into them, sending their vehicle tumbling toward the shoreline. Bruised and badly injured, Nino manages to crawl out of the wreckage. He looks up in terror as the masked driver slowly walks toward him. Desperate to escape, Nino stumbles into the ocean, hoping to get away, but the crashing waves knock him back toward the shore. The driver catches up to him, overpowers him, and forcefully holds his head underwater until he finally drowns, ending Nino's part in the deadly conspiracy. After drowning Nino, the driver calls Bernie and calmly tells him that Nino wouldn't be coming back. Realizing his partner is dead, Bernie says the bloodshed has gone on long enough and proposes one final meeting to settle everything once and for all. The driver agrees, and they arrange to meet the following day at a quiet restaurant. Before the meeting, the driver calls Irene. He tells her he has somewhere to go and doesn't think he'll be coming back. He simply wants her to know that spending time with her and Benicio was the best thing that ever happened to him. Irene remains silent, without saying anything else. He quietly ends the call. The following day, the driver meets Bernie at the restaurant. Bernie promises that once the money is returned, Irene and Benicio will be left alone forever, but he also makes it clear that the driver will never truly be free. Even if he survives, he'll spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder, accepting that fate. The driver tells Bernie the money is in his car, but both men know neither of them intends to walk away peacefully. The driver leads Bernie outside to the car and hands him the bag of money. Just as Bernie reaches for it, he suddenly pulls out a hidden knife and stabs the driver in the stomach. But the driver had been expecting a move from Bernie. He immediately stabs Bernie in the neck with his own knife. Bernie stumbles and dies on the spot, badly wounded himself, slowly makes his way back to his car, and drives off, leaving Bernie's lifeless body and the bag of money behind. Later, Irene walks over to the driver's apartment and quietly knocks on his door, hoping he's inside, but no one answers. So she sadly walks back to her apartment. At the same time, the driver continues driving into the night, bringing the story to an end. Personally, I wasn't a fan of the ending. I really wanted the driver to go back to Irene so they could finally leave everything behind and start a new life together. After everything he'd sacrificed for her, that's the ending I was hoping for. And if this movie taught me one lesson, it's this. Avoid married women at all costs. One minute you're helping your neighbor, and the next you're fighting the entire mafia. What do you think? Were you satisfied with the ending, or were you also hoping the driver and Irene would end up together? Let me know in the comments.